from the News Channel 5 Network. This is OpenLine.
Welcome to OpenLine. Glad you are with us tonight. We're talking about things like wills and trusts and paying for the high cost of nursing home care. How do you pay for that for yourself as you go through life? How do you pay for that for a loved one? That is what we're discussing tonight. We'll give you some advice on all of those topics. And happy to have with us our old friend, Tim Takacs. He's joining us via Zoom. We're talking elder care law. Tim, thank you for being with us.
Great to be back. Great to be back, as always.
Always good to have you here. Okay, so yes. I always like to start out by defining elder law, because I tell people this is a chance for them to call in with their stories, their questions, but let's set the parameters.
Right. Elder law is a specialized area of law practice that really began in maybe about the late 80s or early 90s. Unlike estate planning, which is what we also do, we do wills and powers of attorney, and we plan for people what happens when they die. Our focus really is more on the living client, and typically the living older client. We all know that we would like, all of us, as we continue to age, we want to age successfully, we want to be healthy. And we want to get to age 90 or 95 or whatever it is where we get, and we want to be in good health, and then just drop dead. But unfortunately, that is not what happens to a lot of us. A significant percentage of our older people, our older population, as they age, they lose their health, they lose their disability, they develop chronic illnesses such as Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and other disabling conditions. And so the focus on our practice is planning for that group of folks. Sometimes we say what we do as elder care lawyers is we help them find, get, and pay for good care.
Right.
And so, like you mentioned, nursing home care.
And so I often start the show by saying, are you caring for a loved one who is aging? And
yes.
Are you struggling with that? And we want to hear those stories. We always encourage people to call in with their questions, their stories there, because that's kind of the essence of what you're talking about. Isn't that right?
Yes. It is exactly what it is. It's probably not a day goes by, or certainly a week goes by, where I'm not talking to someone who is either a caregiver of an older person, or maybe even a care receiver. For instance, we had this morning we had a initial consultation with a couple who he's in his early 70s, and the wife is in her late 60s. She's still working, and the husband was diagnosed recently with Alzheimer's disease, and really he was mobile. He came in, he has mild cognitive impairment. He was able to participate in the conversation, but his memory, which was apparent, and even his wife explained that he has trouble remembering things after being told after a few seconds, and that couple, they really needed guidance. They needed support. They have no children. And so, the husband and wife, particularly the wife, came in because she was worried because they had no plan.
Wow. And you helped them come up with a plan.
Right. Where our job then is to help them, guide them through that process. So initially they have no documents. They have no estate planning documents, no powers of attorney. So we're having to plan for certainly if the husband continues to decline, and he needs extended care somewhere, how do we make sure that she's protected? Like as she said, asset-wise, will she have enough money to live on? And then I had to remind her, and she really hadn't thought too much about it, is that, well, we also have to plan for the possibility that she predeceases her husband.
Right.
She's the healthy spouse, she's still married, but it's not a guarantee that she'll survive her husband.
I think it's fascinating. I like to just ask you, who came into your office? I mean, that's a fascinating story.
Yeah, right, that is our story.
And that, I'm also interested in, all right, are you seeing, and do you have an example of, again, I guess a younger person who's caring for aging parents? And in that case, who is your client? Let's say the child, the younger, they're in the 50s, 60s, comes in asking for help with the parent. How does that all work? Who is the client? What are some of the questions they ask?
Yeah. Our client is always the elder. So, like, for instance, and I was just thinking of another case, a married couple that we have where the wife comes in and her husband is not doing well. He's they're both about late 60s, early 70s. He's not doing well. He's declined much more than the other case that I was just mentioning that we had this morning. And she came in looking for a plan, and she explained that she and her husband reside together in their home, but also who lives with them is her 89-year-old mother.
Oh, wow.
So she is essentially, the wife is, a caregiver for her mother. She's doing okay now, but I mean, she sees herself possibly as being a caregiver for not only her husband, but also for her 89-year-old mother.
Good grief.
Yes, exactly. And there's a lot of people out there like that, believe it or not. As we age, we can expect, when I first started doing this work, probably in around 1990, that was not common. In fact, we didn't see that very often, but we're seeing more and more of those cases where we have not only a person who is a caregiver for a spouse, but also a caregiver for an elderly parent.
How difficult?
You have one elder caring for another.
That's very interesting. How difficult is it to provide that kind of care? I mean, what are some of the things that people, I guess kids, if they're trying to care for their parents, or in that situation you just described, how difficult a situation is that, and what are some things they should be thinking about and maybe, you could help them with?
Right. I mean, the first thing, we say is, or like one of the first things that we say is to remember that regardless of the situation that you're in, the care of an elder person can be planned. Some people think that, I just have to go with the flow. I have to react with whatever happens, and hopefully I can, I'll react, but we can actually, it's something that we can plan for. We know that there is a situation, we have the experience, we know how, we can't, or sometimes I'll say is, if I knew what was going to happen to you, I could tell you exactly what to do. But at the same time, there are some reasonable things that we know, that we look at the trajectory of your illness or your loved one's illness. If you have, let's say, if your loved one that you're caring for has Alzheimer's disease or other form of cognitive impairment, it's likely to be a long, slow decline. If a person has, like maybe a very aggressive form of dementia, such as a Lewy body, it may be a little bit, that's something that, is often the decline. It comes very quickly, and frankly, longevity is not likely for that group. People who have cardiac conditions or whatever, or arthritis, may need care, but their care tends to be a long, slow decline. So a lot of it is helping our clients and our families sort of project what their needs are going to be, both now and in the future, and then help them, give them guidance, as they move through the healthcare and the long-term care system.
Sounds like many of the people that come into your office, obviously they're thinking ahead, they're doing the right thing. But the ones you just mentioned already are facing something. They are facing an illness. How often do you have people come in, and when would you advise people to come in who are healthy and just wanting to get ahead of things?
Yes, if you're an older person, come in and get ahead of things. And mostly, like we say of that group, is most of them are going to be older. We're looking, in the 60s or the 70s. They may have questions about, can I qualify for long-term care insurance? How do I, some of them talk about asset protection. How do I protect my estate if I do need nursing home care or long-term care? We can have that conversation and see whether that's something like that would be appropriate. Often, many of them that come in and just looking for basic estate planning, we want to educate them as to what long-term, what could happen to them. Give them guidance in that way. And then maybe put together, just a basic estate plan that has basically all the tools that they would need, in the future. If their health declines and they become caregivers or care receivers.
Well, this really sets the table. So this is a chance for you to call in with any question that you may have. Tim comes on regularly, and it's always best when people call in with a situation they may be facing, ask him a question, and he can walk them through that, and we all benefit from that. So I encourage you, if you are caring for a loved one, if you yourself have questions as you age, what you need to be thinking about planning for, give us a call. There's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. So we'll take a break, come back, continue our discussion right after this.